This week's parsha is actually Parshas BeHar, but we have missed a few parshiot because of the Chagim, because of the Chag Pesach itself, and the truth is last week there was a shir on Parshas and more, but unfortunately I inadvertently disposed of the file. The file it's available in audio form, but the actual video didn't quite make it to the upload stage. And B'ezras Hashem, we will have for Parshat BeHar, I'll be traveling at that time, so no guarantees, no promises. But in a sense, you could actually tie. This is Torah's Kohanim. It's a sefer called Torah's Kohanim. Parshat Vayikra is called Torah's Kohanim because basically it begins with the laws of korbanos, mizbech, sacrifices, and also deals with halachas to do with being a Kohen. Parshat Emor starts off talking about the Kohanim and kedusha in general, which is basically a holiness. It's a concept specifically associated with the base of Mikdash, but really, as we see in Parshat Kedoshim, to heal we have to be kadosh. The entire Jewish people have to be kadosh. That is the essence of who we are, the idea of being holy, and really, there's one really, everything that Rashi says is crucial and important, but some things that he says are extremely insightful that you have to it might be short, but you have to take it into consideration exactly what he's saying, what the message is giving over. And in as much as tonight, B'ezras Hashem is Yom Ha'atzmaut, a very controversial holiday, certainly amongst the frum world, because of all the fighting going on over the last couple of years between the secular world, the secular Zionists, and the frum world, and whether or not the formation of Eretz Yisrael was in fact the beginning of the Gula, as part of the Gula process or not, how to look at the state, how to look at the Brucha. We were sitting here in a room that is beautifully built, in a town that is beautifully built, in a country that is now, Baruch Hashem, beautifully built. And it was done, over the course of 70 years, with a lot of hatzlacha, all min hashemayim, all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu has different shlichim, different people, and of course the fact today was Yom HaZikaron, when parts of the nation make a point of remembering all the fallen soldiers who have fought for this country, and there's a lot of different aspects to it. That are true, and other parts are controversial. It's a big mess until Mashiach finally comes and straightens everything out. There's a lot of discussion going on, a lot of anger. But I think that the issue can be addressed in the context of this specific Rashi that has a lot to talk about, a lot to say in terms of the long-term national goals of the Jewish people, what we're doing here, and how we're supposed to look at Torah mitzvahs in general. So the Torah itself, is talking about Eretz Yisrael, and the Torah says at the end of Parshat Kedoshim, which we'll tie to Parshas Amor, Parshas BeHar, right? Idaltam bein habehema tahira tameya. ובין העוף הטמא לטהור ולא שקסו את נפשותיכם בבהמה ועוף ובכל אשר תימוס האדמה אשר הגדלתי לכם לטמא. Right? Because Baruch Hu says that separation has to exist and be made between the animals which are tahor, which are pure, and those which are impure, between the impure bird and the pure, right? And we should not make ourselves disgusting, and our soul should not be disgusting through the animals and the birds which crawl upon the ground, because we don't eat things like that. And Kosh Baruch Hu says, I have separated them out, I separated you out, right? They're separate, to you, they are tamei, spiritually impure. V'yisem li kadoshim, you should be kadosh to me, ki kadosh ani, Hashem, right? Because Kosh Baruch Hu, as reiterating at the beginning of the parsha, it says, the Kosh Baruch Hu says that you should be kadosh because I am kadosh. Right? Although it's certainly sufficient to say you should be kadosh, period. Like any other mitzvah. Kosh Baruch Hu doesn't give us a reason as to why, you put on tefillin because I put on tefillin. In fact, the Gemara does say that Kosh Baruch Hu does put on tefillin, but doesn't mention that as a reason that we put on tefillin because he puts on tefillin, or that we should do certain mitzvahs because he does those specific mitzvahs in some form or another. Yet the Torah feels compelled to tell us that we should be kadosh because of Kosh Baruch Hu's kadosh. It's enough to know the world is kadosh, right? The Kohen wears on the seats. It says, Kodesh L'Hashem, because as Elisha explains, the whole point of Torah and mitzvahs in the entire world is to elevate all of Ma'aseh Bereishis to get to the point where it's all Kodesh L'Hashem. Techisa Mesim, in the period of resurrection of the dead, it's going to be Kodesh L'Hashem. That's the goal. That's what we're all here doing, is to Mekadosh yourselves and Mekadosh the world and get to the point where everything is Kodesh L'Hashem. So it's sufficient to say that you should be Kadosh. What I like to add the words Ki Kadosh Ani, right? Because I myself am Kadosh, right? And that goes back to the beginning of Vayikra, with the Aleph. We won't go through the whole vort right now, but Vayikra versus Vayikra, right? They got the little Aleph written. The Sacred Torah is smaller than the rest of the letters, to indicate that the Aleph transforms the word Vayikra, which is Lashon Mikra. Rashi points out that it's more of a chance thing, that the Bilam only had prophecy when the Kodesh Baruch Hu chose to show up and talk to him, and even that was on behalf of the Jewish people. Whereas Moshe Rabbeinu was able to speak to Kodesh Baruch Hu 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Kodesh Baruch Hu was online with Moshe the entire time, because Moshe was Kadosh. In order to be able to connect to somebody, to have an association, a relationship, you have to be like them. If you're not like them, you're not similar to the thing you're trying to relate to, you can't connect. There's no relationship. So Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying that you're not being Kadosh just to fulfill the mandate of my separations. You're not being Kadosh because that's the mandate of all of creation over here. You're being Kadosh specifically because you cannot have a relationship with me if you're not. Because Kadosh Ani, I'm Kadosh myself, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, meaning that if you want to be able to connect, and that's what it's all about. The whole point of the Haggadah, right, which we went through Pesach time, is Gilui Shechina. That's what my separation is all about. The word Galus and Geula come from the same shorish. Gimel, Leglot is to reveal. Galus is exile. Exile is the lack of revelation for Kodesh Baruch Hu and my separations. And Geula is just the opposite. So as we spoke about in the first part of the Haggadah, that the whole point of the Makos was not so much for the Mitzrayim to destroy Mitzrayim, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu could have destroyed Mitzrayim like that. Just take him out of the picture. Makos Bechoros would have been enough for simply a plague. Just Kodesh Baruch Hu could easily just destroy, all of Mitzrayim in 1 second, without any problem whatsoever. But what did he do instead? Instead, he performed the Makos, and all the Makos were specifically for the sake of elevating Klal Yisrael to a level of Gilui Shechina. The finally Makos Bechoros was the level of such an intense level of Gilui Shechina that Lamaisa, in the end, that anybody who was not Zoichet to see it, like the 4/5, who were not Makabel, the Geula, right, they had to be taken out of the picture in Makos Choshech, removed from creation, because if you didn't choose to see Hashem and all that was taking place, the Mitzrayim already saw it. Zes Velokim by Makos Kini. But the plague of lice, they're already pointing out, and the hand of Hashem, Kodesh Baruch Hu, is doing it. And when Parah began by saying, Mi Hashem, in the end, he's forced to say, Kodesh Baruch Hu, I'm not a tzaddik. And he relents over and over and over again, because he sees the Kodesh Baruch Hu for a place like Mitzrayim, Mem Teshay Tuma, and Parah is the Av Tuma, is the father of all that. And he can see the Shechina and be minded to Kodesh Baruch Hu doing all the Makos. And you're going to deny the Hashgacha Pratis? And you're not going to go out with Bnei Israel when the time comes for the Exodus? Machal Shem Shemayim. There's no room anymore in my separations for you. You're not part. It's not just that you're not going out. Not that you're just going to stay behind Mitzrayim and suffer more slavery. You don't belong in my separation, because the whole point of my separation is Gilui Shechina and the connection, the relationship. And that's what we're going to do. That's what Kiddush Hashem is all about. Kiddush Hashem, you sanctify the name of Kodesh Baruch Hu because you're megal the Shechina, my separations, through your actions. Kabbalistically, there's so much going on. It's also Kedusha. That's what it's all about. It's all about Gilui Shechina. There's nothing else but Gilui Shechina or hiding the Gilui Shechina. Galus is when you hide it. You hide it, so Kodesh Baruch Hu hides it. That's Parshas Bechukosai. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, you're going to hide it? I'm going to hide it too. If you want to go ahead and act Bekari, right? You want to act like there's no divine providence, there's no rhyme or reason to history. You want to live your life that way? So that's the way I'm going to act with you. It's not going to be that way. I'm still running everything, still running the show here. But I will make it look that that's the case. And therefore the world will not be moida to my existence, and you, or the Goyim, the Leviticus nation, will have failed. So the Parsha says, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Kadosh Ani Hashem, right? And I have separated you out. Kedusha is always a matter of separation, right? When you Mekadosh Shabbos, you make Kiddush on a kosher Yahin, right? Or Havdalah Motzei Shabbos, you're being Mavdil when Orh Choshech Ben Shabbos, Ben Mechol, right? It's always about separations. The Gemara points out that the reason why Havdalah is in the Brucha Tachon L'Gam Das Hamotzi Shabbos, because Havdalah is a function of Das Elokim. It's a function of understanding, of seeing how things really are in my separation. That's what it's all about. Because of that, which Baruch Hu makes it specifically that, the Chazal put the Brucha in there specifically to explain that if you want to be Mavdil, if you want to have an understanding of the Shekhinah, my separation, to be able to connect to Baruch Hu on that level, you have to have Das Elokim. Right? So Baruch Hu is Mavdil between Bnei Israel and the nations of the world, right? To be mine, right? And that's the whole point. For us to be able to be Kosh Baruch Hu's unschooled, a treasured nation, to be a unique nation, it's not simply lording ourselves over the rest of the world. It's about leadership. It's about responsibility. It's about being an Orla Goyim, showing the world what life is about, showing the world what our potential is as being partners with the Kosh Baruch Hu in the film of the Ma'aseh Bereishis, right? The Ish al Isha, it goes on after that, of Yodoni, but that's the main point over here. The Torah is framing it and phrasing it first, and Rashi comes along and explains, Deal as Chem Na'aminu Yasli, I will separate you from amongst the nation to be mine, right? And explains, Ima Temuv Dalim Mehem Haretem Sheli. It's a Tanai, it's conditional. If you will separate yourselves out from the nations of the world, you'll be different, you'll be unique. Then you will be mine. Then you'll be mine. Right? Right? Im love, and if not, atem shel nebachetnetu v'chevorav. Right? And you will be, instead, if you're going to try to integrate amongst the nations of the world and be like them, then you will belong to them. Not that they're going to say, oh, welcome to our club. Come join the family of nations. They're not going to do that. Look what's going on in the last 70 years. In spite of all the miracles, and all the battles that we've won, and all the fantastic Hashgacha Pratis, the more the nation, the secular people have tried to join the family of nations, the more they've been rejected. They can't understand. And they bend over backwards, and they literally put themselves on the line, put themselves on the line of fire, and they've proven themselves over and over again to have integrity and loyalty, and to be, selfless to a large degree. And yet they get rejected as just the opposite. They can't understand. I mean, the whole political structure of the country today was based upon the fact that the world was going to accept us equally if we did what they wanted us to do. But it didn't work out that way in the end. We're in as much peril, if not more, than ever before. Doesn't work that way. And why? Because Rashi's saying right here. And that's the whole time. That's the whole complaint. But you have to, just the same way, for example, you have to make a separation between the Jewish people and the nations of the world. You have to also, and that's what Kedusha is all about, and then on a higher level to Kohanim and Parshas Emor, right, and then Parshas BeHar, Shemitah, all these halachas that we're doing right now, right, it's all about acting differently than the nations of the world. Again, not to say that we're better than other people, but just to say that we've been taught what to do, and we possess a specific potential to achieve it. Going back to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, right? But as Rashi's pointing out, that basically, that everything, all of history, all of Hashgacha comes down to this idea of Havdalah. And in fact, if you go back into Mitzrayim, it is exactly the other aspect of the Makkos. One of the parts of the Makkos that is so central to the story that people don't focus on, don't pay attention to, is the fact that the Makkos kept affecting the Mitzrayim, kept attacking the Egyptian communities all over the country, but not Goshen. And the Torah points it out. The Torah makes it, bears witness to it, and makes a point of saying, but it did not affect the Jewish people. Because Baruch was Mavdel between the Jewish people and the Mitzrayim. And that's a major part of the Makkos. Not, again, because the Makkos, always recall, the Makkos, it's not about simply destroying Mitzrayim, because you didn't require the Makkos to destroy Mitzrayim, because Baruch had all kinds of ways to do it. Could have happened naturally, in fact, over time, but because Baruch Hu specifically made a point to perform these miraculous acts against the Mitzrayim, specifically to not perform them against the Jewish people. So people could say, the Jews could say, the Mitzrayim could say, there's some kind of distinction being made over here. That's what Mark Twain pointed out, right? When he came and he looked at the Jewish people, and he looked at Eretz Israel and he said, look, the land was fallow for 2,000 years, just like the Torah promised in the end. The prophecies have come true. And the Jewish people should never have lasted so long. And bigger nations and mightier nations and more powerful nations seemingly have risen and fallen and disappeared. They're nothing today. They're forgotten about, but the Jewish people, but Israel remains behind in spite of against all the odds. Even Yemach Shmo B'Zikra himself pointed out that when he looks at history, he wrote this. When he looks at history and he sees that the Jewish people have survived against all the odds, he can't help but wonder if destiny has chosen his people specifically for some unique task and purpose. He points it out. Amalek. The enemies can see that. What about Klal Yisrael? What about the Jewish people? They keep pushing us away. They keep separating us out. They keep making us, you're different. They keep pointing it out to us, you're different. And we keep saying, no, look, we're just like you. It's the difference between being a Yaakov and Yisrael. Yaakov was a tzaddik. Ishtamim Yoshev. He was definitely, the person himself was a tzaddik. But the concept of Yaakov, as we discussed many times before, right? But the concept of Yaakov is holding on to the heel of Esav. He's the twin brother of Esav, but he's holding on to the heel of Esav, symbolizing the capacity and the potential to be just like him. To be just like them. To be a follower. But Yisrael is different. Yisrael fights with the Sar Shel Esav. He fights with the angel of Esav. And he overcomes the angel of Esav. And he becomes Yisrael as a result of that process. He's different. He's no longer the follower. He's no longer Chol, right? It's a Shem Chol. It's a Shem for Chutz La'aretz, where it's Chol, right? Rather, instead, he's a leader. He's a Yisrael. He's an Ish Kadosh. He's somebody who's mabdil between himself and the nations of the world, not b'derech gaiva, not as a function of pride, not as a function of a desire to lord himself over anybody else. That's not his desire, it's not his job. It's not what he wants. It's not important to him to appear more special than anybody else. All that's important to him is that he perfects himself as an individual. He elevates his family to a high spiritual level, and he shows the world what it means to be a partner of the Kadosh Baruch Hu in the fulfillment of Ma'aseh Bereshis. And when he's doing that, and he's able to achieve that, everything falls into place. Nations, they rise and they fall. That's clear, right? Right now, America is going through a very difficult time. According to the IMF, International Monetary Fund, basically have degraded the standard of the American economy, meaning that basically they said within 5 years China will take over. The US dollar today is very low around the world, especially in Israel, very low, and with the potential to go lower. The national debt is terrible. Doesn't look very promising for the future. In spite of the fact that they killed Osama bin Laden, at this point in time, it's a moment of celebration. Everyone enjoys a good party, especially in New York. But the reality is the reality, and you have to wonder, like, is that just a natural occurrence? I mean, it took Rome 500 years to rise and fall. So why should America be different? But the reality is not like that. That's the reality when people stray. When the Jewish people stop being Orh Ganuz, they stop being. It's a phenomenal thing. It's a very phenomenal thing that America was founded based upon the Torah. Based upon the Bible. The American founding fathers, the architects of the Constitution, when they first began, they turned to the Bible as a guide to figure out what to do, how to try to maintain a level of integrity of a society, to not become Rome in the end, to not have to fall. Nobody says, well, anyhow, we'll probably be around just for a couple of years. Right? Yeah, and so, what difference does it make? Rome lasted 500 years, Greece, whatever, so we'll also be. No, when they began, like every society, you hope it will last forever. Whatever evolves, whatever becomes the result of time, you hope it will last forever. Okay, it's not even going to last 500 years in the end. It's already decaying from the inside. The lack of morality. The Jewish people had a tremendous opportunity. I mean, we have a nation here that rides on their money. In God we trust. That's a phenomenal thing. to write on your money. Okay, today it's kind of meaningless, but there was a potential. When they first wrote it, they meant the God. God in Shemayim, the one God, the God of the Jewish people. In God we trust. Our future is in His hands. They believed it. Today it's like, it's too expensive to change the printing things, so they just, but it's like losing its meaning. How can you write in God we trust in your money and take it out of the classrooms? Where it needs to be taught to the most, and you have producing, films and entertainment that literally, in other generations, if there was a Sanhedrin, we kill people for. Because it's so immoral, so base, so animalistic. Esav contained three components we see in the Torah and the Medrash. It contained three components. The first component we're most familiar with, Esav the brute. The guy was a rough guy. He was born red and ruddy, and he goes out at the age of 15, and he's stealing, and he's pillaging, and he's raping, doing all kinds of terrible things. He's forcing his way on the world. He takes what he wants. That's Esav the brute. But we also see, according to the Torah and the Medrash, he's also has some kind of religious component. It may be totally superficial. And he asks his father, how do you meister straw? How do you meister stuff? You don't have to meister these things. Why even try? Why even care? There's something there. There's a base. It's not true. It's not authentic. It's not deep, but it's there on some level. And then the Medrash says there's Esav the businessman. He was all three things. Esav was a lawyer. He was a lawyer you went to when you had a tough case and it was built up against you and you might lose the case and he could win for you because he was such a brilliant, so to speak, or tricky, or he knew how to work the system to be successful. He'd do very well in business today if he was here today. And over time, he had children, he had descendants, just like the Jewish people split up, so also Esav split up. So nobody today really seems to have all three components built into him, right? But his color is red, right? And it's amazing. You look at the world today, and for example, you ask yourself, which country, if any country over time, has been endowed with the brute aspect of Esav? Which country in the world would you think it would be, right? I'll tell you what comes to my mind. Maybe I'm biased, but it comes to my mind. Russia. And what's even more amazing is the word man and money. The people who called it money say, let's call it money because it sounds like money. Money came down from the sky like Parnasa. No. But Ashkafa Pratis puts it in people's minds to make decisions like that we in our minds can say, oh, money, make a connection. Who knows? I can't say for sure, but it's an interesting coincidence, which we don't believe in the first place. So, it's a phenomenal thing that after all this time, and the Jewish people are so English-speaking, we have a country that had its favorite color was red. To the point it was even called Red Russia. Red Russia. Esav of Russia. Red Russia. It's an amazing, amazing thing that should be the reality. Right? And a Jew, to be a Russian, you have to give up everything. To become a communist, you have to give up everything that was Jewish for the most part. And then there's Esav, the religious guy. Who's he? Where's that? Well, that's a little easier, right? Today there's Islam, but for the longest time, for thousands of years, it was Roman Catholicism until it branched off into other, Anglicanism and all the other, Presbyterianism, but primarily it's the Vatican in Rome, right? That's Esav's, as Rashi points out in Parshas Yishla, that's Esav's, that's his place in Europe, that's his place in the world today, right? But religiously speaking, and what color kippah, so to speak, Lahabdel, Elahabdalis, does the Pope wear? Red. Red. White and red. The red stands out. To be a Catholic, you have to definitely give up everything. Jews have done that. They've worked their way up, unfortunately, when it's learned to high levels in the Catholic Church, but you have to give up. You can't be Jewish and be Catholic at the same time. It's an oxymoron. That's for sure, right? Where did Esav the businessman go to? Where does he show up? Over time, at the end of history, because specifically in the history, as we've spoken about before, that the last decision the Jewish people have to make is, are you a Yaakov or Yisrael? That's what the Malbim says. And that's all that the Gemara implies, right? So it's very relevant to talk about Esav at this late stage of history. Right? Where does Esav show up? right? Well, he shows up, in the Western world, but specifically, right? Take a look at the flag of America. Red and white. Red and white and blue. Red, white, and blue. What's the blue? Well, the Medrash says there's this aspect of Esav that's so similar to Yaakov that it can actually fool Jews into thinking he's kosher, like a chazer who's got split hoofs, right? Who puts them out there, they're visible. Puts them out and says, look, I'm kosher. Split hoofs, right? Well, there's two simmanim, one on the inside and one on the outside, right? But we can't see the one on the inside unless you kept the chazer open. He says, look, I'm kosher, right? What other nation has a blue flag, white and blue? The Jewish people. And stars, right? Red, white, and blue, and stars. Which other nation has a star on its flag? Magen David, on the flag of Eretz Israel. Clearly, right? That's just a coincidence. Red, Russia. That's clear. Separate, different, right? Red, Catholic Church. Separate, different. No blue there, right? But America. United States of America, the founding fathers who used the Bible as the basis for the Constitution, a society that's chesedic, that allows people to do their thing, for from Jews to be successful. It's all there. Red and white, Esav, right, with blue mixed in, and stars mixed in, as if to say, look, I'm kosher, I'm just like you. And therefore, for a Jew to be an American, it's not so difficult anymore. Not so difficult. And the state is founded. And it's a miracle. There's no question about that. Kabbalistically, it couldn't happen if it wasn't sanctioned from Shammai. There's no question it was built upon the ashes of the Holocaust because Kabbalistically, the Mesiras Nefesh of the Jewish people, the self-sacrifice, the suffering, the torture, the death, all of it, by definition, changes the world in the upper reality, the upper spheres, and brings down Shefa. The result in what Michtav points out is clearly positive hashgacha practice. What to do with it in the end? What to do with it in the end? What are you supposed to do with it in the end? It's a miracle. And all that's happened in this country over the course of 70 years plus is a miracle. And will continue to be a miracle. Not to mention the fact that we're sitting here having a shiur, surrounded by hundreds of millions of people who live to wipe us off the face of the earth, have the money to do so, the means to do so, the chutzpah to do so, and now the world support to do so. And we're not running. And B'ezras Hashem, we won't have to run in the end. Because the miracle that will take place for the Jewish people of Eretz Israel will be even bigger than the miracles that took place for the Jews in Mitzrayim. That's what the Gemara says, that's the promise. But it's all coming down to one thing. Just like in Mitzrayim, and we spoke about it by the Haggadah, the whole point of the matzah, the separate Adam from the Chamor, right? As the Gemara Pesachim points out, it's all about separation, all about Kedusha. It's all about extracting the blue out of the red, white, and blue. You think it's a coincidence that everything we do in this country on a secular level mimics either Europe or primarily America? The way we do things, how we celebrate, we give Shevach to Kosh Baruch Hu, just Shevach, clearly, but the miracles that took place in the end, it's the red, white, and blue. It's Esav combined with Yaakov, but not Israel, per se. Because Baruch Hu is saying, he's giving us a warning, the Torah is saying specifically, right over here, Rashi points out, if you be mavdil, if you will extract yourself from the nations of the world, not look down upon them, not antagonize them, not brag in front of them, not try and lord yourself over them, but to be an example of Kedusha, of the purpose of my separation, of what it means to be a shutaf with a Kosh Baruch Hu in the completion of my separation. If you'll do that, if you'll be that, the Torah says, that Nebuchadnezzar and his friends won't even exist, let alone bother you. You'll have peace. Your society won't fall like Rome fell, or America might fall, or Europe's falling right now. Won't fall. It will last forever and ever and ever. But if you're not going to be mavdil between yourself and the nations of the world, you're going to try and fit into them. You want to be the blue amongst the red and white and the stars? You want to combine yourself and not be Israel and hold on to the ankle of Esav and be like him? You got to watch out. Nebuchadnezzar and his friends will come for you. You'll smile and say, welcome, come on in. But they'll come for you. They came for you in Europe. They came for you in Rome. They came for you in Babylon. They came for you all through history. They've been coming for you. And they're coming for us once again right now. Because we have to be mamdu. That's the source of Kedushin. I'm Kaddish, you to be Kaddish. Because it's all about a relationship. It's Vayikra, the Aleph of a dam. Right? Going back to the Haggadah, the Seder, the whole thing. It's all about fulfilling the mandate of the Aleph with the Dalet and the Mem, to be Adam, to be Shama, to be free. Specifically, to connect the Kodesh Baruch Hu. If we're able to do that, then not only will the miracle of the state be a miracle, which it clearly is, but it'll be one that we'll be able to celebrate as a nation together, as part of the Gula Shleim, if not the Gula Shleim itself. It should be B'ezras Hashem soon in our time. And everything will fall into place the way it has to.